Welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. Good day here in the hide. We have an Eagle Target Cam long range. Now this is the camera plus the long range Wi-Fi repeater, and so I've been really looking forward to this. As soon as they released it, I put it on order, and they had a good deal, even better deal. And I mean, the value normally I think it's $199 or so, $200 is an exceptional deal for what you get, but it was even better than at the intro, and so I was lucky enough to get in on them. And you know, they're building up their stock and everything else, and so it took I think 2.5 to 3 weeks and to get it, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm really happy to get it. So I just thought I'd do an unboxing here. Now let's take a look and see how it comes, and then we'll sort of go through the setup and configuration of it with the final test there on the range in a little bit. So let's just cut it open carefully, and should be able to pop this right open. There we go. Alright, so if you can see, this is how it comes packaged. Nice piece of foam. In fact, the foam is glued on the top so it doesn't come loose. Same on the bottom then. We have a quick reference on how to work the camera, so we'll go through all that. Here is the Wi-Fi repeater itself, so we'll go through setting that up as well. And then here's our camera, and antenna and a few other cords. And the battery pack. And the interesting thing is I didn't know if it would come with this ultra-fire battery, because he had mentioned on his video that you need to order these. So I'll order some more of these, but if it's a 5-volt output, I might just get a big USB battery backup pack. They're cheap too, and you know, you can recharge them, whereas these are one time and done. I think he said about 10 hours or something like that is what these are good for. But anyway, we'll check that out as we go along too. And we have our long range antenna and a few other cables. So let me go ahead and get this all set up, look at the instructions, and then we'll come back. Alright, one thing to notice here is I've turned on the camera, and that's going fine. It's got a charge to it, but it says charge the camera and the base station before use. Well, I did charge the base station. It showed green, but when I turned it on I got nothing. So maybe this is a misprint where you have to have the battery plugged into the Wi-Fi repeater. So we'll see. I mean, it didn't show any power at all when I unplugged from here, and so I assume then there's no onboard battery to this, and that's what really the intent of this is for. So again, I'll probably get a big USB battery and I don't have to worry about it, but we'll do it this way. So we'll set this over here out of the way. The antenna then will be pointed. Remember, we got to keep this pointed at our camera, so we'll point that at our camera, set this out of the way, and let these two connect. All right, one other thing, so this is connected, I believe, and we'll see that here in just a minute. But if you literally follow the instructions, if you're not really familiar with Wi-Fi and setup, it says basically turn on the Wi-Fi base station, aim the antenna at the camera, the logo side downrange, and that's what we've done off to the side here. And a red light from the base station will start blinking, and when it's ready to connect, so you can take no longer than a few minutes, so that's fine. But then you jump down to the next instruction. It says Wi-Fi base station password is target cam, lowercase, and no spaces. What it doesn't tell you, if you're not familiar with this, is you have to go to the settings, and then you have to find that Wi-Fi. So you go settings and you hit Wi-Fi, and then you'll see, let me cancel this here, then you'll see Eagle Target Cam Station 170 come up. Okay, so I should hit this, and then the password they say on here is target cam, so we'll put that in, and then we'll see if we connect up to the network. Alright, so it says now we're connected. So now we should be able to go back to our app, hit reset the connection, and there we go. Look at that. So there's that additional step that you need to know about. If you're not familiar with setting up the Wi-Fi, again, you'll go to settings, hit Wi-Fi, look for Eagle Eye Target Cam, do that, enter this password they give you, and then you're up and running. So if you see then there's a lot of latency because of the sampling rate, but for target shooting I don't care. You can see kind of slow there because the picture actually looks really pretty nice. That's more than acceptable. That's a 22 long rifle hole right there, and you can clearly see that on that picture. Now, I'm up in the hide and I have, some decent LED lights above me and things like that, but outdoors this picture is probably even better. So pretty cool, pretty cool. It's going to take a picture of this, but maybe I can get this up in the right angle here. You'll be able to see that better. Let me stack that back there, and maybe it's not going to stay up there. But anyway, you can see, get the idea here that maybe I can do it this way. You can see it that way. Picture's not bad. Picture's not bad at all. So on the app, I've just played with it just a little bit. Let me set this in front of this. It'll probably get a little bit close. I'm going to refocus here, and we'll see if we can see this a little bit better. All right, hopefully that's better for you. And this is the app picture. You know, that's not bad. And this is on a you know, a 10-inch tablet, and I think this does 720. It's not full HD on this tablet, but that's a pretty good picture. I mean, well, you can see that. You'll be really happy at the range. Now, this takes a picture of it, and so it saves a picture. And you do that, that's fine. This is the blinking mode, and so you hit this and you can turn on and off blinking, so you can see where the shot was and what you've where there was no shot. And so, for instance, the frame before this, and then you see that frame. And I'm sure there's a time buffer. It goes back and it looks for an image back in time that it's saved and then displays the new one. I would assume, and maybe Kenny can elaborate on that when he does another video on this, but I'm sure that's what it's doing. But anyway, you would see the shot disappearing and appearing, which is a really nice thing. Now this, I believe, is going to allow me, to go back and look at these pictures, and you can kind of zoom in and check them out and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. That's not bad at all. Now what it really needs then is a movie mode. Okay, even if it's like an old deck of cards or an old motion picture, it'd be nice just to take a sample maybe every 5 seconds and then build it into a movie. That'd be nice. So you don't have to capture every screen, and you could show it as it progresses. But yeah, this is a good job. Kenny, you guys at DP Gunworks and all that, very appreciated so far. This is a really simple system. It worked well. Not too bad to configure it all, and I like it real well. All right, so let's take a closer look at some of the components here. So this is the camera itself, and it's 3D printed, okay? And so the body of it's pretty solid, I think. It's got a little sliding access door here so you can get into the USB port to charge it. And so that's fine. That's, I don't know, it's pretty thin. I would think it may have an issue later on, but if it does break, you put a piece of Velcro or whatever over there on it. The one thing though that they could do, and if you guys see this video, I would clear coat, take automotive clear coat and spray these 3D printed parts. They're very porous the way they're made. It's a lot like, if you can imagine taking spaghetti and squishing it. This happens to be my field of work and expertise, is plastics and plastic injection molding and things like that, and 3D printing, and I do that sort of work too. But you see it's dirty already here, and that's because of the porosity at the surface of this. So if you take these parts then before you assemble them and just clear coat them with automotive clear coat, then it should be compatible. If you can, and it would seal the surface up and just keep this a lot nicer. So we'll see if I can clean that off. Maybe one day I'll take this apart, but not for now. I want to use it. But then the other thing on durability is we have this camera mount. So these edges will be a little suspect, but if you're careful, you'll be fine. But it's got a threaded mount here. Probably would suggest, maybe you don't want to use that. If your mount only has a thread, be very careful tightening it up, because those are printed threads, it appears like. They might have tapped them afterwards, but you can still see the edges were printed, I believe, in there. So this material it's decent, but it's just not as strong as a regular molded part, and so that may be an issue. If it is an issue, I'm sure you can get a brass insert, drill this out, epoxy it in, and then have a brass thread in there, which would probably be better in the end anyway. So anyhow, not bad on this. This is fairly solid. I think you can deal with all this sort of things. Now on the base station itself, this is I'm sure a purchase part with all these holes and etc. and all that, because this is injection molded. You can tell by the quality of it and how it's done. But the rest of it then is 3D printed, so the back plate shouldn't be a big deal. Although if you're not careful, you could break these mounts off the back plate, and then I'm sure you'll have to get some replacement parts from DP there and do that. The legs are also 3D printed. They're thick enough, but you still better be very careful with them because while the whole unit's pretty light, these can be easily broken, especially if you put them in a bind and you flex them. Again, this inside of the plastic is really fairly porous. And so, you know, it can take only so much and then it's going to break. But I think they've done a really good job. I appreciate the design work in it too. That's a simple and fast deployment of a tripod leg. And so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty good work. And not too bad. You just have to be very careful because if you break it, well, then you're probably going to be fabbing your own legs, maybe out of acrylic sheet. Although you got to be careful cutting acrylic because it tends to fracture really bad if you cut it, so you'd have to cut it and seal the edges with heat, that kind of thing. But anyway, if I ever break it, maybe I'll do a video on how to make new legs. You can make them in polycarbonate, but the reason they made these, I believe you said they were in ASA, is the sun won't affect them, right? And so polycarbonate, eventually the sun's going to age it, it'll yellow, and then it'll get brittle. Maybe it doesn't matter. If it's heavy enough and all, it's going to last long enough for this kind of application. If you make your own legs, it won't really matter. You can make them again. So anyway, not too bad. Not too bad, and a pretty decent design. And then this portable battery system for that is also then 3D printed. And it's a little more rugged. It's got an on-off switch here, and it looks like a circuit board and a USB plug, a mini USB plug there. So I assume the intent is you can charge one here, plug in the other one, and charge that too. I just charged that on a separate USB charger. So yeah, this is convenient enough, but for long-term runs and stuff, I'll just use a USB power pack more than likely. But we'll see that, and I'll sort of check that out. We'll measure some voltages and check just to make sure. I'm sure it's 5 volts coming out of here. But anyway, so pretty cool. They've done a good job. Well done, DP. Happy with the results so far. Now, we'll take this out, and we're going to go to the range. I'll shoot some .22 long rifle. We'll start at 50 yards, and we'll go to 100 yards with .22 long rifle, and we'll go to 200. But at that point, we might switch to 5.56 or 308 because while it should be perfectly fine, I'm not going to take a chance of hitting this thing right away. And depending on the wind, you know, .22 can get pushed around pretty good at 100 yards. And I'll have this camera up fairly close. So I'll take something I know that will not miss outside of this circle. I have some guns that will easily do that. And so overall, pretty cool. Let's take this thing to the range and let's see how it does. All right, going to go ahead and in this video section, we'll call it part 1 of the Eagle Eye target cam review. The weather has just gotten rainy. It's going to be rainy for several days yet, so it's going to be another 3 or 4, maybe even 5 days probably till we can get a good range test. Since this is not waterproof, I'm just not going to risk it even with light rain. It's such a beautiful device. I'm not going to screw it up that way. I'll see if I can wait and hit it with a bullet. Just kidding. But anyway, so I'm gonna do it. I thought you might like to go ahead and see some of the initial review of the product. And so I'll post this, and then we'll come back as soon as the weather permits, and we're gonna do our range testing I described. So I hope you like this. Stay tuned for part 2.